Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. You know the world of online gaming, it never stands still, right? I mean, things are constantly changing, and if you want to keep up, you have to understand what players really want.
Definitely. The online betting world is no different.
And that's why we're here today. For this deep dive, we've gone through a ton of recent industry website content to get a handle on what online betting players are demanding in 2025.
It's all about giving you those valuable insights, letting you know what's shaping the current landscape.
Right, so let's jump into it. You know, one thing that really struck us is this idea that even though players still crave that excitement, that chance to win big, what they actually expect from their experience is changing. You know, like what they want in return for taking that risk.
Yeah, that's a really crucial point, because that basic human desire to have some skin in the game, that hasn't gone anywhere. But the bar has been raised. Like, what actually gets the players excited? What pulls them in? It's not the same as it was even like 20 years ago, you know? What might have been thrilling back then might seem pretty basic now.
Yeah, and the sources we looked at, they really hammer home this idea that players are demanding freshness, they want engaging experiences, and of course that sense of security is huge.
Yeah, security is paramount.
They want to know their money and their data are safe. And you know what? I don't blame them.
Absolutely. If a betting company isn't meeting those expectations, it's going to be tough for them to survive. Players just have so many options now, they can easily switch platforms if they're not getting what they want.
So let's get specific. What kinds of games are actually drawing players in these days? Are we seeing big shifts?
Oh, definitely. Now, you still have your classics that hold up strong. Fruit slots, for example, they still have that appeal.
Yeah.
And mythology-themed games, those always seem to resonate, especially those with great visuals and storylines.
Right.
But, you know, there's only so many times you can spin those same old reels before things start to feel a bit stale.
I can imagine.
What really grabs attention today? It's innovative gameplay, creative new features, and of course, let's not forget live dealer games.
Live dealer games. I feel like those have really taken off in the last few years.
They have, and for good reason, you know. They bring that real casino atmosphere right to the play. You're interacting with actual dealers, other players.
Yeah.
Creates a much more immersive experience. And a big thing, people feel like it's more fair.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Because it's all happening live right there on your screen. You're not just dealing with some algorithm, you're seeing the game unfold in real time. That builds trust.
For sure. So you have those classics, the innovative stuff, and then you mentioned something called crash games. That one piqued my interest.
Crash games, yes. Sometimes you'll see them called the yeah or lice as well.
Okay.
So the concept is pretty simple. A round starts and a multiplier keeps climbing. Now the player, they can cash out their bet at any time while the multiplier is going up. But here's the catch. If the game crashes, like ends abruptly, before they cash out, they lose their bet. So it's a real game of nerves, you know?
Oh, I see. So there's strategy involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big part of the appeal, right? Unlike slots, which are just about luck, with crash games, players feel like they have agency, like they can actually influence the outcome with their choices.
That makes sense. So moving on, what about the way players expect to handle their money? Payments, deposits, all of that. I bet that's changed a lot too.
Oh, it has. And it's become absolutely critical, you know? Platforms can't just offer any old payment method anymore. Players now expect speed, efficiency, flexibility. They want the whole process to be centered around what they need, and they want it to be easy.
We saw this term pop up a lot in the industry. Insights.
Yes.
Instantaneous transfers, right. Like, that's not just a bonus anymore. It's the expectation.
Absolutely. The speed of those transactions, it's directly tied to trust and satisfaction, you know? If a player has to wait ages for their money, forget it, they're gone. And it's not just the speed, it's the whole process. It's got to be smooth, user-friendly, you know? No one wants to fill out a million forms or jump through hoops. They want to deposit, they want to withdraw, they want to get back to playing.
Right.
And let's not forget about the variety of payment options. Players want to use what's familiar to them, what they're comfortable with, without needing to download new apps or create a bunch of accounts.
So essentially you remove all the barriers.
Exactly. And for platforms, that means understanding your audience. You have to research local payment preferences, what people in different regions are using. And of course, we can't talk about payments without talking about the rise of cryptocurrency.
Oh, that's a big one. Crypto. We saw a lot about Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDT, even Dogecoin.
Yep. And it's not hard to see why, right? Crypto offers that speed, that added security, and for some players, the anonymity is appealing.
Yeah, it's that sense of control, right?
Absolutely. And it bypasses a lot of the traditional financial systems, which can be slow and sometimes even frustrating.
I get it. Okay, so we've talked about games, we've talked about payments. What else is top of mind for players these days?
Well, personalization is becoming huge. Just having a massive game library, that's not enough anymore.
Really?
It's almost like an expectation now. With AI and machine learning, platforms can really tailor the experience to individual players. And honestly, if they don't, it can feel like they're not even trying.
I see what you mean. So it's more than just, hey, you might like this game.
Yeah. It's about creating a connection, building trust, making the player feel like they belong. It's about knowing their preferences and catering to those so they don't just see the same recommendations over and over.
Give me some examples, like how does this personalization actually play out?
So think about game recommendations. Platforms can analyze a player's past activity, what they played, how they bet, all of that, and then they can suggest games that actually align with their individual tastes, even comparing them to similar players.
That makes sense.
And it goes beyond just games. Think about cultural preferences, Certain regions might be more drawn to specific themes. For example, in some Asian markets, you might see a strong preference for games with ancient or martial arts themes.
Yeah, while Western players might lean more toward adventure or sci-fi.
Exactly. And even the way rewards and bonuses are given out, that can be personalized too. Those consolation prizes after a loss, those are almost expected now. It's like platforms need to have a sense of empathy to understand how a player is feeling and respond accordingly.
So it's about creating a more dynamic and responsive experience overall.
Precisely. And it all comes down to data, right? The platforms can analyze what games players choose, their bet sizes, their playing times. All of that helps build a picture of their preferences, whether they're high-risk players or more cautious, what kind of themes they like, and then they can tailor the bonuses, the offers, even the layout of the platform itself to match.
That's wild. Okay, before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on esports betting. That seems to be a huge area of growth.
It is. It's massive. I mean, the esports betting market is already worth billions, and it just keeps growing. You have these huge games like CS2, LOL, COD, Dota 2, with tournaments that attract a ton of betting interest.
It's like traditional sports betting, but for video games.
Exactly. You can bet on match outcomes, scores, all of that. But what's really popular is live betting.
Live betting during the matches.
Yep. Players can adjust their bets as the action unfolds. It makes things much more dynamic and engaging. And then you have this newer trend, subathon. Essentially, it's these ultra-long live streams by esports personalities. They can go on for days, and they've opened up all kinds of new betting opportunities.
Okay, so how do you bet on someone just streaming?
It's not just about how long they stream. There are all kinds of in-game actions you can bet on, things happening in real time. Plus, because the stream is continuous, there's a constant flow of betting opportunities. And it's not just about winning or losing either. You might bet on whether a streamer will complete a certain challenge or even how many new subscribers they'll gain.
So it's like a whole new level of engagement for the betting community.
Absolutely. And the platforms are getting in on it too, partnering with streamers and offering special betting markets related to the subathon content. Okay, last but not least, we have to talk about ethical consumption. It seems like players are more conscious than ever before.
Yeah, they care about what a platform stands for, not just the games.
Right. They want platforms to be secure, responsible, trustworthy. There's this term, pure. It means ethical consumption. And it really reflects how people, especially younger generations, are using their spending choices to express their values.
Like choosing eco-friendly products or fair trade coffee.
Exactly. And it applies to betting too. Players want to feel good about the platforms they choose. So how can betting platforms meet these expectations? Well, they can build trust by supporting social causes, donating to charities, They can emphasize their ethical standards in their messaging, make it clear that they're not just about profit.
It's about showing they care.
Exactly, and that's especially important for attracting younger players who tend to be more value-driven. They might highlight their environmental practices, security measures, anything that aligns with those values.
They could even have things like charity events tied to the platform.
Right. It's all about creating that positive brand image, showing that they're committed to doing good.
And underpinning all of that, transparency and security. Those seem like the absolute essentials.
Couldn't agree more. And it's not enough to just say you're secure, you have to prove it.
Show, don't tell.
Exactly. And that builds loyalty, Players want to feel confident that their information and their money are safe. One way platforms are doing this is through blockchain technology, specifically provably fair gaming.
Blockchain in betting, that's interesting. Explain how that works.
So think of blockchain as a kind of public record, a digital ledger that everyone can see. It's extremely secure, it's tamper-proof, and it's transparent. Provably fair gaming uses blockchain to let players verify that the games are fair, that the outcomes are truly random. They might use smart contracts, for example, to ensure that the platform can't manipulate the results. And after a bet, players can often check the data to see for themselves how the outcome was determined.
So it's all about giving players that peace of mind.
Right. And platforms can also increase transparency by displaying their regulatory certifications, explaining their security measures clearly, being upfront about the rules and payouts. It's all about building trust.
Before we finish up, I wanted to touch on one last area: social features. It seems like betting isn't just a solitary activity anymore.
Absolutely not. For a lot of younger players, the internet is their main social space, and betting platforms are evolving to reflect that. They're becoming places to connect, to interact, to build a sense of community.
So it's not just about winning anymore. It's about the social experience.
Precisely. And that's crucial for attracting and retaining younger players. They expect that online interaction, and it keeps them engaged, You have leaderboards, you have ways to compare your progress with friends. All of that adds to the fun.
I can see how that would make players feel more connected, more invested in the platform.
Exactly. And those social features can also drive growth, If it's easy to invite friends, especially if there are rewards for doing so, it can really help spread the word.
Wow. So we've covered a lot of ground today. It's clear that the world of online betting is changing rapidly.
It is.
Players want fresh, engaging games. They want seamless and secure payments, personalized experiences, ethical practices, transparency, social features. It's a lot to keep up with.
It is, but those platforms that can adapt, that can truly understand what players want, those are the ones that will thrive.
It's something to think about. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.